My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Show. A glorious and gorgeous afternoon in downtown Charlottesville, and our building, the Macklin Building, the home to our studio and the I Love CVille Network. We are in the actual heart of Central Virginia on Market Street, a sophisticated, a dynamic, and ever-changing 300,000-person market we call Central Virginia that is unquestionably led by Charlottesville and Albemarle County. What CVille and what Albemarle County do impacts and influences the rest of Central Virginia. And ladies and gentlemen, today's program, I've been looking forward to it for a while. The last 2 days on the I Love CVille Show, we've done some fantastic interviews. We chatted with friends of the program, Roger Voisinay and Richard Price on Wednesday, to discuss their development project in Woolen Mills. They are calling it Woolen Mills Court. Their project will be probably the first truly impactful project under the new zoning ordinance. They have yet to crack ground, but I think they will probably cross the finish line first as the guinea pigs, as the beta test. Yesterday, we chatted with friends of the program, Colleen Shear and Lauren Carbo, the co-founders of CVille Smash, the soon-to-open indoor pickleball facility at the old Marshall's location in Seminole Square. 9 pickleball courts, ping pong, a restaurant, spaces for birthday parties and private events. CVille Smash, I think, is going to be a smash success in the old Marshall's location. And boy, oh boy, are those ladies and their co-founder, Chris Crater, taking some risk with more than 30,000 square feet leased in a long-term scenario. Today, we're back to what the I Love CVille Show is from an essence, from a fabric. And that's Judah Wickhauer and I agreeing, disagreeing, arguing, having fun, educating, entertaining, enlightening you, the viewer and listener. Judah Wickhauer and I asking you, the viewer and listener, to help us shape the discussion. Today, we have an opportunity to respond and react to an election on Tuesday that went exactly how I said it would go. You make that one-shot dynamic, J-Dubs. I said for weeks on this program that Sally Duncan would beat Dave Shreve in double-digit capacity. I said for weeks on this program that if Dave Shreve loses this election and Sally Duncan wins, you, the Albemarle County homeowner, you, the Albemarle County tenant, and you, the Albemarle County property owner, will have less money in your pocket, and taxes undoubtedly will ravage your bank accounts. I said on this program for weeks that of the 3 candidates running for Charlottesville City Council, Brian Pinkston had the most exposure. Deep Throat monikered him Milk Toast. Jen Fleisher wins in convincing fashion. Juan Diego, as predicted, in second place. Brian Pinkston loses. He's run 3 times for City Council. He's won once. He's lost twice. We now have clarity, ladies and gentlemen, on what council is going to look like, and very soon we're going to have clarity on what the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors looks like. In fact, we probably do now. There's a Republican running in the Samuel Miller District, Scott Smith. Judah Wickhauer? Yep. Scott Smith is going to join us on the I Love CVille Show. When? Is it Wednesday?
Let me check.
He's going to join us on the 24th of June, ladies and gentlemen, on the I Love CVille Show. He's running against Fred Missel in the Samuel Miller District. He's a Democrat, Fred Missel. He works for the UVA Foundation, Fred Missel. On paper right now, Missel's a clear-cut favorite. Still, we will introduce you to the underdog, Scott Smith. Is it Wednesday show?
Tuesday.
On Tuesday show. Correction. Thank you very much, Judah Wickhauer. A lot we're going to cover today, ladies and gentlemen, on a Friday, the last show of the week in our studio in downtown Charlottesville. 2-shot, studio camera and a 2-shot, Judah Wickhauer. He's distinguished. He's dapper. He is dangerous, ladies. He is always fresh, always long sleeve, undershirt wearing, and that dog days of summer. He is Judah Wickhauer. You are live on camera right now. Which headline most intrigues you and why, Judah Wickhauer?
I'm curious why that spot that Hardywood was in and now Devil's Backbone may be exiting.
Hardywood could make it work. Skipping Rock could make it work, albeit Skipping Rock couldn't make it work because they had the worst timing ever. They opened a tap room at the onset of COVID. Skipping Rock has now gone out of business. Their assets, in large part, purchased by John Shreve, friend of the program, the good doctor, who's the beer baron at Pro Renata.
Yeah.
Now Devil's Backbone, owned by global conglomerate InBev, Anheuser-Busch, who knows what they rebranded as. Devil's Backbone is owned by the Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, InBev conglomerate. They have evidently thrown in the towel. There is signage on the door at their Devil's Backbone West Main location saying closed for a private event. That signage has been up for an extended period of time. Bobby Yarborough, the king of Redfields, who watches this program, we appreciate you sharing this with us. We love you, Bobby Yarborough. Why is that location cursed? Why can that location not work? And ladies and gentlemen, boy oh boy, we have a very visible storefront and a gateway, a paramount, very important gateway in Charlottesville City that appears it will be vacant for an extended period of time. We'll talk about that today on the I Love CVille Show. Judah Wickhauer, 61 years of business for Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. 61 years for Andrew Vermillion, John Vermillion, and the Vermillion family running Charlottesville Sanitary Supply on East High Street and online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Support the men and women that are small business owners in this community, and the Vermillions are some of the best. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, they are the company behind keeping the Miller family pool, swimming pool, crystal clear blue. We'll give some love to Charlottesville business brokers in a matter of moments, not right now. But the lead of the show, ladies and gentlemen, as you put the lower thirds on screen, Judah Wickhauer, Sally Duncan. Why did Sally Duncan, a progressive Democrat who ran a campaign that had marketing material, including television spots, that clearly indicated she will raise taxes on Albemarle Countyans, clearly indicates she's going to raise taxes on Albemarle Countyans, yet she wins, and not just double-digit fashion as predicted. In fact, this race went exactly how it said it would go. She dominated, absolutely pulverized Dave Shreve. Judah Wickhauer, I have my opinions, but why did Sally Duncan dominate this race?
She had life support where Dave Shreve didn't. She had an infusion of cash support from the progressive Charlottesville, Albemarle County cohort, and she went for the throat.
Duncan, 62% of the vote. Dave Shreve, 38% of the vote. Some of her top donors to her campaign, the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors. Some of the top donors to Sally Duncan's campaign, the Blue Ridge Home Builders Association. Sally Duncan won this race for the following reasons. She ran a campaign of strategy. She got livable Charlottesville behind her platform, her campaign. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you right now, I throw shade at Matthew Gilligan and Stephen Johnson and Livable Charlottesville all the time because this organization, I think, is absolutely damning, wrecking Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Wrecking Charlottesville and Albemarle County. But at this point, Livable Charlottesville continues to have significant prominence and influence in both jurisdictions. No doubt. They now have hand-picked candidates in multiple election cycles who have won. Sally Duncan is another one of those, ladies and gentlemen. Getting Livable CVille behind you at this point seems to be a recipe for victory. Sally Duncan ran on a platform that was overwhelmingly in supportive of new housing. And evidently, we are in a political climate that if somebody says affordable housing, if somebody says new housing, if somebody says housing density, if somebody says helping disenfranchised people, they are going to be a slam dunk winner. This is first props to Duncan for understanding how to win a race in Albemarle County. She deserves props for victory. She dominated this race, 62% of the votes to Dave Shreve's 38%. I also think as you put the second lower third, Dave Shreve, why did he lose this race? I would say this to him now. I said this to him a month ago in person. I said this to him on the phone. I said this to him before he interviewed on the I Love CVille show. I said this to him after the I Love CVille show. I said the campaign you are running right now is not an intelligent campaign. You are focusing on door knocking and nothing more than door knocking. You don't have a campaign manager. You are running a campaign that is not a 2025 Albemarle County victorious strategy campaign. You should be going after Sally Duncan and her stance on taxes and saying, if you elect this candidate, Sally Duncan, everyone in Albemarle County will have less money in their pocket, less money in their bank account. I said, Dave Shreve, if you want to win this race, you need to go after Sally Duncan, who is using this, woe is me, I'm just a renter and a tenant in the Jack Jewett district. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she's renting a massive house in Earlysville that is extremely expensive to rent. This is not somebody renting a tiny home that is scraping by. Her husband works for City Hall where he's paid a large chunk of money, all public record. This is how his campaign should have been organized if he wanted to be victorious. He should have highlighted the Democratic machine, Diantha McKeel endorsing Sally Duncan, and basically saying if you want the same thing, if you want more of the same, you vote Sally Duncan. If you feel like Albemarle County needs fresh blood, you vote me, Dave Shreve. Diantha McKeel is endorsing her. It's hand-picked candidate by Diantha McKeel. He did none of this. Yeah. So while Sally Duncan deserves tremendous props, tremendous kudos, tremendous praise for running a strategic campaign and having the right people back her, it's important to highlight that Dave Shreve ran a campaign that was not strategic and, frankly speaking, lacked some competence. And I can't be more straightforward than that. Mm-hmm. I cannot be more straightforward than that. Now let's get to Charlottesville City Council as we're responding and reacting to Jen Fleisher winning. Look at what Fleisher did. It's the playbook from Sally Duncan. Fleisher, who did she get backing her?
The usual Democratic...
Livable CVille. Very clear-cut answer, ladies and gentlemen. Livable CVille. Props to Livable CVille, who has a grassroots base that they've organized, strategized, and galvanized. When voter turnout is so piss poor, you just need a small group of people to push a candidate into victory lane. And voter turnout across Albemarle County and across the city of Charlottesville was piss poor pathetic.
Yeah.
And when it's that piss poor pathetic, a small group can determine an outcome, can determine a victory. And now this small group of people in this piss-poor voter turnout election cycle will determine a $600+ million Albemarle County budget moving forward, a Charlottesville City budget that very soon will start sniffing $300 million a year. As Deep Throat said in a direct message to me, there's this significant silent majority in Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville that is either apathetic or does not give a rat's ass about voting. And that silent majority that is doing nothing but sitting on its backside with its fingers in its hands under its legs, twiddling its thumbs, must be invigorated to get to voter booths to make some real change happen in the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. And right now, that's not happening. Brian Pinkston loses. Brian Pinkston didn't just lose. Brian Pinkston got hammered. Fleisher, ladies and gentlemen, basically 4x'd Pinkston's voter turnout, Pinkston's vote total. 4x for Fleisher. Okay? That is a hammering. Pinkston's run 3 times. He's won once. He's lost twice. And the one time he won, he did it in an election cycle that was extremely weak. If memory serves correct, that was one of the weakest election cycles and candidate pools when Pinkston and Wade won in a very long time. We now have clarity of what's going to happen in the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors and Charlottesville City Council, ladies and gentlemen. You have a candidate in Fleisher that is even more progressive than Brian Pinkston on the dais. I will say it again. A candidate in Fleisher who is elected to city council that is more progressive in her ideology than Pinkston. She will team Fleisher with Michael Payne and Natalie Alshrin to drive Charlottesville into an even more progressive state than it currently is. And that should really rankle you, give you pause, and say, good God, how can it be even more out there? And from an Albemarle County standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you need to watch and follow. Sally Duncan is going to team with Michael Pruitt. Sally Duncan and Michael Pruitt are going to team with Ned Galloway. And Sally Duncan and Michael Pruitt and Ned Galloway are going to team with Fred Missel in the Samuel Miller District, who is a clear-cut favorite to beat Scott Smith, the Republican, in the general election in November. And when Missel, who works for the UVA Foundation, teams with Ned Galloway, who's about to be on the dais for a third straight term, he's never faced opposition in the Rio District, Ned Galloway. Never. He's not this election cycle, did not in the second election cycle, not in the first one. When Galloway, Missel, Pruitt, and Duncan team together, that's 4 of 6. You will see Albemarle County, Virginia radically change from a policy standpoint than what we've known in Albemarle County and the generations that have since transpired. I would not be surprised if the following happens immediately. A, conversation will be had about raising the real estate tax rate again. It already went up 4 cents. Get ready and giddy up for it to go up again, the real estate tax rate. And it's going to coincide with assessments increasing as well, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? This is the next conversation that's going to happen when these 4 team together to form a majority voting bloc. They're going to start talking about subbing out areas in the 5% development area for other areas outside the development area, doing a do-si-do, a switcheroo, making a trade. For land outside the development area, trading that land for land inside the development area that either does not have the topography or has so much political outcry, it is undevelopable right now. Rivanna Village outside Glenmore is a perfect example. What happened with Charlie Armstrong and Frank Bailiff at Southern Development and Breezy Hill, you saw Glenmore politic and outcry against the Southern Development neighborhood, Breezy Hill in the Rivanna Village. That outcry led to a very diminished housing stock neighborhood. Michael Pruitt, who represents this area as the supervisor of the Scottsville district, will utilize this voting block, ladies and gentlemen, of Pruitt, Galloway, Missel, and Duncan to try to push this portion of the Scottsville district and sub out Rivanna Village with another portion outside the development area to spur housing. That's the second thing going to happen.
Is that necessarily a bad thing?
Judah, have you driven on 250 outside Glenmore and down Pantops on drive into work or drive home to work, or when there's an accident on Interstate 64? It is the most snarled road traffic-wise in Central Virginia. And if there's ever an accident on 64 and Pantops and rescue vehicles were trying to navigate that traffic landscape, whoever was suffering on the side of the road, or whoever was soon to die in their house waiting on rescue vehicles to get there, they would perish, because the time it would take to go from the firehouse or the hospital with a rescue vehicle during rush hour in, rush hour home, or when an accident is happening on one of those key transportation thoroughfares, someone will die. Glenmore utilized that to keep Breezy Hill fully developed. And that is a viable, legitimate situation. This is the third thing that's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, in Albemarle County. First thing, taxes are going to go up. You will have less money. Judah lives in Albemarle County. He will have less money. Taxes will go up. The second thing is they're going to try to trade out development area pockets or areas. The third thing is the expansion of the 5%. And I don't know about you, but I'm choosing to live in Albemarle County because I like green space. I like quality of life, and I don't want to sit in traffic synonymous with Fredericksburg and Northern Virginia. If I wanted all of that stuff, I live in Northern Virginia where the pay scale is 2x or 3x higher. Okay? And then the last thing, All their policies, all their strategies that they're going to try to do are going to effing backfire. They're going to effing backfire to the tune of this new zoning ordinance in Charlottesville. More on that in a matter of moments. When you let government officials start tweaking things, the only people that win are the wealthy and the sophisticated, and those that lose are the ones that are unsophisticated and on the financial margin. I live in Ivy. Do you think the development is going to happen in Ivy? No. You know how much of that property is under conservation easement? Do you understand what's going to happen with Ivy from the Lewis Mountain neighborhood to the 240-250 split, where none of that land is going to get increased density? None of that land is going to get increased density because most of it's under conservation easement, and all the other land down Ivy Road is tied to a homeowners association that has covenants and restrictions and bylaws in place that's going to prevent development from happening. Okay? So when Crozet gets developed, when these other aspects of Albemarle County get developed, increased density happens, that's going to put even more of a coveted, even more of a I want to live there, even more sex appeal, even more romantic notion for the marketplace to move to Ivy, which is going to make the housing stock in Ivy from Lewis Mountain to the 240-250 split even more expensive. Mark that down. My crystal ball is crystal clear. Okay? And when we start expanding the development area, or we start trading in land outside the development area for land inside the development area, and we start building single-family detached homes, those homes, I can assure you, in the 2025, 2026, 2027 climate, where interest rates are expensive, where cost of goods are expensive, where labor is expensive, where dirt to acquire is expensive, where the risk profile is significant, all that housing stock is going to come on market, new inventory, with a 1 million handle and up on it. And it's not going to appeal to anyone, black or brown. It's not going to appeal to anyone that's lacking sophistication. It's only going to appeal to people that have sophistication. No one lacking, no one that is uneducated is going to be able to afford that. And it's going to create a further homogeneous Albemarle County. Mark it down. And they're going to do it all in the name of affordable housing. So while they will have, ladies and gentlemen, while they will have a greater pot of money in a slush fund earmarked for housing affordability, and they will, when they tax us, they're going to take that money, put it in a pot for housing affordability. That pot with housing affordability is going to be used to either build homes, PHA, Southwood style, Fifth Street extended style, what they did with Southwood, Piedmont Housing Alliance. They're going to build pockets of poverty while the rest of Albemarle County gets more expensive. Mark it down. Judah Wickhauer, you've wanted to make a couple points. Jump in here on the Friday edition of the I Love CVille Show.
Oh, I'm good. We've gone way past
What's the
there.
point you wanted to make?
I was just asking questions.
What was the question you wanted to ask?
The question was about switching out areas that aren't getting developed in the development area with areas that are outside of the development area. But you made it pretty clear that people would die, so.
If you had to trade out an aspect of Albemarle County's development area, which is around the urban ring, with territory that's outside the urban ring, and you made a trade, Rivanna Village and Keswick by Glenmore, we're going to trade out this land for other land that's outside the urban ring to spur development. What are you creating there?
Further drive?
Sprawl. What's the collateral damage of sprawl?
More traffic coming into town?
That's one. What's the collateral damage of sprawl?
I'm unsure beyond that.
Environmental concerns, more people
Okay.
driving in cars, more roads, more issues with roads, kids on school buses longer to school, kids on school buses longer to get home, more water strain, more strain on rescue that's already strained, fire and rescue and police, because they have to drive further. They have to police further. They have to extinguish fires further. They have to save lives further.
Okay.
When you create sprawl, we all lose. We lose the green. We wait in traffic longer. And the argument is made, oh, we got to find a way to build housing for these people. It's about time we start prioritizing the infrastructure before the housing.
That's fair.
Now, the next question we have to ask is this. How many of us want to keep more money in our pockets? Do you want to keep more money in your bank account in your pocket?
Of course.
Do I? Yes. Do you, Gary Palmer? Do you, Lord and Ivy? Do you, Barbara Brosick? Do you, Lee Taylor? Do you, Georgia Gilmer? Do you, Rob Neal? Do you, Kevin Yancey? Do you, Michael Pruitt? Do you, Tom Powell? Do you, Ray Cadell? Do you, Logan Wells Claylow? Do you, Deep Throat? Do you, John Blair? Do you all want to keep more money in your pocket? Overwhelmingly, what is the answer to that question?
Of course we do.
Then how did we get to a point where a candidate in Albemarle can run on a platform saying, I'm going to tax you more money to fund housing affordability, and win in such dominant fashion that the individual who lost should be, frankly, slightly embarrassed? How did we get to that point, Judah Wickower?
I would say a big part is that nobody's voting.
Voter apathy. We're in such an apathetic state in Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville, specifically these two jurisdictions in Central Virginia, that the voters that are center-aisled, right-winged, or perhaps ambivalent on politics understand the turnout is going to go in such a way because of history that they either ignore it, get angered by it, but forget it, and don't show up to vote at all.
Yeah.
The turnout was bleak and pathetic. Mm-hmm. The apathy in the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County is so significant that a small slice of each jurisdiction is voting, and that's an understatement.
Yeah.
So how do you fix it? How do you solve it? What do? You find candidates that are confident, charming, conversational. Candidates that understand the issues, that can convey policy, convey ideas, convey problems. Look the part, speak the part, write the part, understand the part.
Is that a unicorn?
Is it a unicorn?
I mean, obviously those people exist. I mean, we've got
How do you spur the silent majority to vote? How do you spur the silent majority to vote? I don't have that answer. Neither do the Albemarle County Republicans. Neither do conservative or moderate Democrats. Mm-hmm. There's one ideology that's dominating the county and the city, and that's progressiveness.
Yeah.
That's not just left-leaning, but it's left-leaning, so far left-leaning that it's either activists or socialists.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that. Next topic. Comments are coming in. Evan Pohl's watching the program. Evan Pohl says this: and no amount of groveling or bending over backwards to their insane agendas will convince the activists otherwise. If you're white and male, you are the enemy in these two jurisdictions. I don't buy it. I don't think it's that far. Bill McChesney says older white men are out of favor. Maybe. I think Dave Shreve was not the perfect candidate. He was labeled a population control guy by Livable Charlottesville.
Yeah.
And that's what cost him this election.
He never got out from under that.
He never got out from under that. Sally Duncan didn't have to label him a population control guy. Livable Charlottesville did it for her.
Yeah.
John Blair on LinkedIn. I think you need to devote a show next week to the Voisinay interview. It was probably the best local media interview in years. So much information packed into that 1 hour. You and Judah do a good job. When you unpack it, there was so much said about the NZO and development in the city that deserves a lot more of your analysis. Then he offers some take on West Main Street, which we will get to in a matter of moments. Philip Dow, welcome to the broadcast. Television, radio, and print, welcome to the broadcast. TV, radio, and print, I have a story that you need to report in your legacy media cycles coming up. On Tuesday, Scott Smith's on the show, the Republican running for the Samuel Miller District. Goodness gracious, think about the balls you need to have to run as a Republican in Albemarle County in 2025.
You got to be a glutton for punishment.
Less than, just a couple of months after Donald Trump gets elected to the White House? Think about the balls you got to have to do that. Next topic. What do you got? Ginny Hu, thank you for the retweet. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. What's the topic with the lower third on screen?
Change in direction for Evergreen.
Ladies and gentlemen, as close as a source as you can possibly get, and I'll leave it at that because it's an ongoing story with ongoing developments, but as close as a source as you can possibly get to 303 Alderman Road. Yesterday, conversation about the direction of 6 luxury brownstones in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood. Folks, on the I Love CVille show, from as close as a source as you can get, the developer and builder Evergreen is deciding to no more do 6 luxury brownstones at 303 Alderman Road. The plan instead, ladies and gentlemen, is to build the biggest, most expansive, largest house possible, with some conversations to a detached garage with a finished in-law suite above the garage at 303 Alderman Road, and then get the hell out of Lewis Mountain. The game plan and strategy for 303 Alderman Road is to build something so lavish, so large, so extraordinary that it has a 3 handle with a list price. Yes, $3 million. That would set a neighborhood record. Lewis Mountain residents, the first thing you should be doing is thanking the I Love CVille show for covering this story from start to finish. That's the first thing you should do, Lewis Mountain. Tell someone about the I Love CVille show and thank us for covering the story. The second thing is you need to highlight the effort of not just the I Love CVille show, but people like Jerry Cox, the attorney who's come on twice, that has led a strategic charge against 6 luxury brownstones at 303 Alderman Road. Jerry Cox should get applause and kudos from Lewis Mountain. He lives in that neighborhood. If you see Jerry Cox in Charlottesville and you have ties to the Lewis Mountain neighborhood, he should never pay for an alcoholic drink again. Buy the man top shelf scotch, top shelf bourbon, whatever libation he wants. I sincerely mean that. The third thing you should do is you should crack open an ice cold beer, some Chardonnay, pour yourself a bourbon or a 15-year-old scotch right now, because the 6 luxury brownstones are no more.
Yeah.
This, according to sources as close as you can get, and I'll leave it at that because it's a moving story. Now, upon further reflection, you should ask yourself this question. A $3 million sale in Lewis Mountain? $3 million sale in Lewis Mountain? How is that going to impact our tax assessments? In particular, with more progressives on city council who are willing to raise the real estate tax rate on a whim. $3 million, goodness gracious, that's a neighborhood record. And that's a comp that are going to drive assessments at a time when Fleisher just got elected to council over Pinkston and is going to team with Natalie Ostrin and Michael Payne to make a progressive policy, that's even more radical than it's ever been. What does a $3 million sale do to a family that's retired? Due to homeowners that are unemployed? Due to homeowners that are living on a fixed income? This will undoubtedly make the neighborhood more expensive, more unaffordable. Yes, you won the 6 luxury brownstone battle. But remember, those individual brownstones would have been traded somewhere between 1 and 1.5 million. And 6 brownstones trading at $1 million to $1.5 million aren't going to impact assessments like a $3 million sale. So while you won, and while you should be pounding beer right now, taking the beer bong out and bogging some IPAs, or ripping a bourbon shot, or enjoying scotch on the rocks, despite it being 1:12 in the afternoon, you must realize what the long-term headwind you have here is. Once this project is finished and it comes on the market at $3 million with the detached garage with the finished in-law suite above it, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have a comp that's going to absolutely drive your tax exposure and your tax base. Next headline, Judah Wickhauer. What do you got on the Friday edition of the I Love CVille Show? Judah Wickhauer is on point today.
Devil's Backbone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Devil's Backbone on West Main Street has had a sign in its window of its tap room that is forgotten and off the beaten path, that it is closed for a private event. I've seen it firsthand. The popular Facebook and social media brand Cheers VA also shared this as well. Devil's Backbone, which opened its tap room on West Main Street in June of 2023, for the past week and change, has a sign on their door that is closed for a private event. Has the tap room on West Main Street officially closed for good? And is anyone surprised?
It seems to be a tough location to make things work in Charlottesville.
Specifically to let them know the location. You were looking at a map, Judah Wickhauer.
I was looking at a map. But this is, I believe, on the corner on the corner of 10th and West Main, if I'm not mistaken. Right there, I believe, kitty corner from roughly where
1000 West Main
is.
Street, ladies and gentlemen. 1000 West Main Street is where this is located. The Devil's Backbone backyard. Explain to me, ladies and gentlemen, why this location across from a Starbucks, ladies and gentlemen, why this location next to the UVA hospital, next to the University of Virginia, this location, literally that is between the downtown mall and the UVA corner. This location that has had how many other breweries within less than 1 mile walking of it? South Street Brewery, Three Notch Brewery, Rockfish 1.0, Rockfish 2.0, Hogwaller Brewery, Random Row Brewery, Superfly Brewery, Decipher Brewery. Why can South Street Brewery, Three Notch Brewery, Hogwaller Brewery, Decipher Brewery, Random Row Brewery, Superfly Brewery, Rockfish 1.0, and Rockfish 2.0 survive? And they're all clustered within less than 1 mile of each other, but Hardywood can't make it at this location. Skipping Rock can't make it at this location. And the most significantly funded of the candidates, Devil's Backbone, owned by InBev, Anheuser-Busch, a global conglomerate, can't make it at this location. South Street doesn't have parking. Superfly has very little parking. Rockfish is on the downtown mall. Rockfish on Preston's got very little parking. Why can this spot not work? And is it cursed, ladies and gentlemen? Is this spot cursed? What's it say about the beer business in totality? Are there more to follow suit? When do you cut your losses? Other questions I have. How long will this space sit vacant? If Anheuser-Busch and InBev, with their financial resources, can't make it work, who in God's name would try this spot out despite having the equipment already on site?
Yeah.
What's the vacancy due to the gateway that is that location, a gateway that ties the UVA corner and the downtown mall together? What's that vacancy do from a perception standpoint, from an optic standpoint for students, tourists, locals alike?
I mean, will they even notice?
Who will ever take that spot? Is this a vacant storefront that will sit vacant for years to come? Who wants to get in the beer business when young millennials and Gen Zers are choosing to be California sober? Very different than what we did when it was me on the prowl, when we were enjoying California and booze as well.
Enjoying California?
Come on, you got that. What do I mean by that, viewers and listeners? Help Judah out. Smoking weed and drinking, Judah.
Okay.
Young millennials and Gen Zers choose to be Cali sober now. Do you know what Cali sober is?
Nope.
Strictly cannabis, no booze.
Okay.
Hence the advent of seltzers at ABVs that, goodness gracious, are synonymous with Scope mouthwash. Drink enough seltzer, drink enough Scope mouthwash, you can feel the same thing. What's the point? That is something to follow. And ladies and gentlemen, Charlottesville City, economic development, goodness gracious. Tax collection so significantly down in the first quarter of 2025 versus the first quarter of 2024. You still have that chart from the Chamber of Commerce?
Let me see.
That tax collection, ladies and gentlemen, think about what's closed, what's closing. You got Tubby's closing next week. You got Jack and Jill's closing for the summer. Raising Cane's closing for the summer. Little John's closing. Devil's Backbone closing. What's that, Judah Wickhauer?
You're talking about the 2025...
The bar graph with the tax collection.
Report?
The bar graph with the tax collection. Is that on screen?
Yeah.
Look at the screen, ladies and gentlemen. This tax collection report for the city of Charlottesville shows tax collection in the city so far behind versus last year for the city of Charlottesville. And since this report was released, remember, this is a first quarter report. We have, off the top of my head, ladies and gentlemen, off the top of my head, had the following businesses since close. Devil's Backbone. Potentially. Looking like it.
Yeah.
Jack and Jill's closed for the summer. Raising Cane's closed for the summer. Little John's closed permanently. Devil's Backbone, what's going on there? If you're the city of Charlottesville and you're economic development, you better figure something out very quickly. Because empty storefronts breed other empty storefronts. And a lot of that economic activity, a lot of that economic stimulus is tied to perceived safety. Yeah. We've had back-to-back weekends of shootings on the downtown mall. What happens this weekend? Only time will tell. There's currently a gun buyback going on right now.
Yep, gun buyback. You could also mention the investigation of shooting on South First Street very recently.
A lot of people don't want to say this, okay? I don't mind saying the uncomfortable. And a lot of people don't want to say this. Deep Throats put this on my radar. How much of the violence in the city of Charlottesville is tied to Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority housing stock? How much of the violence in the city of Charlottesville is directly tied to tenants and CRHA homes? I'll say it again. How much of the violence in Charlottesville City and or Albemarle County is tied to tenants living in Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority stock? Who's willing to have that conversation besides the I Love CVille show? Next topic, Judah Wickhauer, 120 marker. What do you got?
Oh, let's see. We've got Scott Smith coming up.
Tuesday?
Yep.
On Tuesday,
24th.
You have a man that has, some say cojones. Some would say is a lunatic. Some would say is a leader. Some would say is a pipe dreamer. He's running as a Republican in the Samuel Miller District for the Board of Supervisors in Albemarle County. He's going to be on the show on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to meeting with him, chatting with him, having a conversation. His opponent, Fred Missel, works for the UVA Foundation. I personally find it a conflict of interest, someone working for UVA that's on a city council or the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. Brian Pinkston works for UVA. He served a term on council. Missel works for the UVA Foundation, and he's going to probably be on the Board of Supervisors. I find that to be a massive conflict of interest that the largest landowner in Albemarle County, UVA, provides the paycheck for a man who's going to be deciding and determining housing policy in Albemarle County.
Yeah.
Okay? Just my take on that. But I guess others don't agree with me. I guess we live in a climate where there's 600 or 700 people that can get someone elected to the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, and that person's going to determine a $600 million, nearly $700 million budget. It takes, this is so crazy. It makes me nauseous. Okay, you ready for this? This makes me nauseous. Less than 1,200 people, less than 1,200 people on Tuesday's Democratic primary determined who would represent the Jack Jewett District on the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, and who would dictate the pace and tempo, the allocation, the future of a soon-to-approach $700 million yearly budget and the future of a county that my wife and 2 children live in. Less than 1,200 people will determine the future and the direction of a county my children, my wife, our future family live in, where we run multiple businesses.
And how many people are in that county?
Insane. How about that for a conversation starter at your cocktail and charcuterie party this weekend or your backyard cookout this weekend? Judah Wickower, Jerry Miller, the I Love CVille Show.